Hello and welcome. Another tool of the trade. Finally. This is a tool that I introduced some time ago. I can't remember when, but it's I think it was last year. But it is quite some time ago, and I haven't really been using it because I experienced some issues with the tool. It just didn't work properly. I had some issues with defining things and so on. So somehow it kind of dropped off the table a bit, and it was lying there. And then at the moment, I am actually trying to figure out ways of moving some of the tools away from my simulation box to an old notebook that I have revived and updated and kind of made it work again. And I want to use this external notebook as my source for all the tools, the likes of Little Navmap, SimToolkit Pro, FS Flight Control, and other tools in order to take away some of the burdens of running tools such as SimToolkit Pro, which can be quite a CPU hog. It's a great tool, don't get me wrong, but it kind of things suffer when this tool runs, so I'm trying to just get rid of those a lot of these running tools, Navigraph, charts, and things like that. So that's the idea. And then I stumbled over the Airplane Toolbox, the VAS Airplane Toolbox again, and I thought, there's quite some time now that I have this on the desktop and I haven't used it, so there's most likely an update. And yes, there is an update indeed, and you get it on the forum explain.org. So I'll show you this here. So we do have updated 13 minutes ago. You are not serious. What? That's a good one. To tell you the truth, I had actually recorded this video, and what I didn't realize is I have problems at the moment with my USB hubs and other things here in Windows. Windows is giving me real pain at the moment. So I did the whole video, and there was no voice on it. I had my shouting and aggro bit. And I started now new, and while I was obviously talking and doing the video, a new version of this tool came out. Very interesting. So why not install this on the fly? Because it might actually fix some issues that I had. Let's see. Fix and improve temperature calculations, fix RTOW issues, fix A320 profile issues, fix UI issues, fix internal issues. Great. It might actually mean that we have some problems fixed. Let's see. So, by the way, this is Captain Tux who's doing this. And there is quite a difference between the old version and the new one, which I'll show you in a moment. But why don't we just start and go and get this new version? Let's see how it does it. Aha. So this is a patch. So if you haven't installed it yet, what you need to do is go to the Windows or to Linux or to OS, whatever, and get the matching base installation here, this zip file here. All right, download that one. I have this already, so I'm not going to do this now. Then get the latest patch. That one I will not get because I need it. All right. So it's downloading. All right, and then go to custom profiles and download these three here, because these are predefined profiles for the Zibo, for the TOLIS 319, and for the Flight Factor B757, which I'm expecting to be sort of adapted versions. I'm guessing that Axel is Captain Tuk. so that I can see this here. Yeah, okay, right. Yeah, has been downloaded. The patch has been downloaded. So you need to download these 4 things, and then I can show you how to install this. So basically, what I did was, I have a SimTools folder where I collect all these SimTools, Swift and so on. And I just exported the VAS Airplane Toolbox Windows 6 x64 from the main zip here. Okay. And then what I did is I kind of, so let's go to the downloads here. Okay, here it is. Let's go in there. Let's go to patch content. Just select these here. I copy them. And then I just go back to here. Paste. Replace the files in the destination. Oops, I have it still running, the tool. Yeah, that's not a good idea. So stop the tool if you have it running. And try again. Okay, so it replaces now a number of things. And then go into any of these 3 profile zip files. They need to go, the files that you see in there, that's these YACF. Actually, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to delete my self-made ones. So you should end up with these 3 here. I would actually get them if you're using this tool on X-Plane, which I think is not necessarily only X-Plane. You can probably use it for prepared and even for FS 2020 if we ever get the airplanes in FS 2020 that match the profiles here. So the A320, I'm not sure how accurate the A320 profile would work with FS 2020, but in theory you could also use it for those simulators, yeah, if the data is reasonably accurate. Okay, so that's it. Once you have it all set up, what you need to do is, there's a BAT file here, Airplane Toolbox BAT, and you run this, and what you can't see is a splash screen. It comes up on my other screen here. Once it's finished loading, you see this here. All right. Now that threw me off a bit at the beginning because I thought, well, why do I need to click on a link here or use a barcode? And then I realized this is actually the way the things work. It's a web server, a mini web server on the port 8080. And in order to use the tool now, instead of like it was before, a desktop sort of application, you actually start it in your browser. You click here, it opens up in your browser. Cool, isn't it? And there are a number of predefined profiles available. It seems to show only, the first, I don't know, 10 or so. Let's see if other ones are available as well. No, it's really only those. A3. Ah, yeah. Okay, A3, 4. Ah, yeah. Okay, let's see Boeing 737. Ah, yeah, here are all the variants of a Boeing, including the Zibo. So there are more than the 10. Let me see. C, R, 200. Ah, yeah, here's the CRJ-200 profile. There's already one set up. Okay, these are default profiles. The ones that we have just downloaded, they are custom profiles. That means this is a 757-200. Why don't we check this out? So let's see if we can detect a difference. So this is the 757-200. And if we look through this, yep, there's a difference in the max fuel. The default profile has 43,490 kilograms. The flight factor version has 36,286 kilograms of fuel. So there is a difference between the default, and you can see here C for custom and S for standard, I suppose, something like that. All right. And that also gives you an idea where this program is heading. This program is to calculate performance, and therefore it needs certain pieces of information. I'm going to load this profile of the Zibo here. Successfully loaded. Cool. Quickly look at the database. There's the aircraft profile editor. I'm going to very quickly show you. So if you select it, you can see how you can modify these values. You can save them again. That is something that didn't work for me in the old version, desktop-based version. But that seems to work now very well. I've tried it already. Okay. So, yeah, and you can define any kind of variants of your profiles. This is the list of available profiles. Unfortunately, there is no 747 at the moment. Okay. Airbus-wise, we are pretty well equipped. A319, 20, 21, A330, all variants, or at least the most common ones. The A340, the most, yeah, looks like the 200 to 600. The 737-200, I actually had an issue with that one. I might actually give this a quick try. Yeah. 737-200, 600, 700, 800, 900. Unfortunately, there is no 300, 400, and 500. So the IXCG, for example, wouldn't be covered here. That's a pity. 757s, 300 and 200, and the 200 and 300 of the 767. Yeah. Then the CRJ, that's interesting because I would like to use it for the J roll-on. And then the E170LR. Yeah, so the whole Embraer jet thing. That's quite cool. Not sure how you can create profiles like base profiles with, suppose you need to have a lot of information, and I'm not sure if there is an easy way of creating new ones, for example, for the 747. There's also no A350, so there's still some holes in the coverage sort of available aircraft, but still it's quite interesting. So how do you use this tool? Basically, you pick your profile. So if you want to fly with the Zibo, you pick the Zibo or 737-800 profile. And then you go to ACARS, and ACARS you basically connect to Simbrief. You have to have a Simbrief there. So you make load, and it's fetching Simbrief data. It will fetch also your departure and arrival airports. There you go. And then it shows you the flight plan or the operational flight plan here. All right. Then you go to takeoff. And here we are now. This is what this tool is really for. It's calculating your takeoff and arrival performance. If I press on ACARS, it pulls the airport. Unfortunately, only the airport, nothing else. But you need to kind of specify some more information for the takeoff. Before I can do that, I actually pull some weather from NOAA, VATSIM or IVEO. So we have -2 degrees of 1002 millibars, hectopascal. The wind comes from 240 with 17 knots, gusting 30. So Spitzbergen isn't very nice today. So that means we have to take off towards the land. Not towards this, towards the sea. 28 is towards the sea, which is good. Runway 10 would be having to fly towards land, and that means you have to climb quite heftily at the beginning in order to avoid any kind of mountains, because this is a mountainous area, especially when you run heading east. So runway 28, which matches the winds. You could actually define some entry points like, and if you have some clearways and stopways that you are not able to use, you can define them here. We don't have that, or we don't use that here. You also give the takeoff weight of your aircraft that you should really pick up from the Zibo before you take off, so that this is an accurate value. Let's just leave this here. Is anti-ice on or off? Well, for the takeoff, because it is a short runway, I guess we will leave it on. What we actually might do is we turn off the engine bleeds if we need all the energy. But I just leave that on now, like the way this is here at the moment. The engine anti-ice I would probably turn off then shortly after the takeoff. Or we can try and see what happens when we have the anti-ice on. Thrust is optimum, assumed temperature is optimum, and runway is wet. So as I say, it's not very nice there. Yeah, I press on calculate, and looky, no data, takeoff data has been found. I had this before. Then I just had to do this again. Calculate, no takeoff data has been found. Let's put this off, calculate, aha. So it means that it couldn't calculate for some reasons. Sometimes this tool gives you explanations of what you should change. For example, if you use an assumed temperature on such a short runway, it might actually tell you that you should not do that. In this case, it was obviously anti-ice, so it's not always exactly helpful the way this it says if you can't find them. But what you do is you just continue changing some of the settings here, and hopefully at some point it will come with a result. In this case, it says we should use flaps 5. We take off 1, which is a 24K rating with 90.9%. Selected temperature is toga, so we're not going to select the temperature. We leave it at the current temperature. The restriction is 73,270 kilograms. We are well below that with our takeoff weight. V1 is 103 to 121. That's a little bit fuzzy. It is slightly fuzzy, but yeah, I suppose when I look at the rotation of 138, yeah, so you can choose between 103 and 121. I need to see how that's done in the Boeing, so what you would pick then. But it basically says V1 is the speed that when you reach that speed, you should not stop anymore. Now, I would think, because this is not an extremely long runway, it's only about slightly below or around 8,000 feet long available takeoff range. I would probably opt for V1 being lower than 121 knots in order to have enough leeway then at the end. Rotation is 138 and V2 is 147, so you can set this then and compare this probably with the Zibo. The takeoff range, you will use 5,734 feet. The stop margin is only 1,874 feet. That means on reaching V1, you have about 1,800. No, that's not true. So the available stop margin, if you are taking off, is 1,874 feet, which is okay. This is it could be worse, let's say. Yeah, landing altitude is 100 feet, and that's the takeoff in Spitsbergen. Now gets low to landing. Again, I can use the ACARS. I would use the META. Okay, so winds coming from 210 with 21 knots, no gusts. 1027 is the current HPA. 4 degrees. It's quite like we're talking January, we're talking winter. Also in Spitsbergen, temperatures in the plus range or around 0 is interesting. Normally in January and February you have you used to have really minus 20 something odd temperatures, so you can really see how things have warmed up these days. The wind 210, meaning we are going to land the runway 18, so southerly. We're not going to change the exit point. We're going to use the whole runway. And we're going to have 62,362 kilograms. You should call this tool, when you actually do your approach briefings and calculations, and then check what kind of fuel you have left. Okay, so we just leave this value in here for the moment. Leave everything in the optimum, unless you know that you have a problem with your reverses. And we're not going to do an auto land. I press on calculate. And what it tells us is that we should land with flap 40. I would normally land with flap 30. We're going to do this calculation in a moment. Landing altitude is 50 feet, so it's also quite low. The approach speed is 146. The VREF is 135, and the VTD is basically VREF plus 5. And that means that with auto brake 1, we have about 483 meters left. If you need this in feet, by the way, just switch this to feet and then you get the whole thing in feet. So that means we take 6,263 feet to stop. That's not that much left then. It's also about 8,000 feet runway. Auto brake 2 brings us, well, at least 2,000 feet. I go back to meters. 600 meters left. Yeah. Really green in his calculation is auto brake 3, but that will cause quite a bit of braking power here. Yeah, 981 meters left. The max, which you normally don't use, is, yeah, you don't use AB max. Even 3 is hardly ever used. I would probably opt for auto brake 2. You can do a manual braking. In theory, that leaves you the longest, but that means that you're basically braking like mad. You don't really want to do that, also for your passengers. So I would say auto brake 1 is maybe a little bit, yeah, you will get close to the end of the runway or closer, and I actually did, because I had actually auto brake 1 selected, I think, the last time. No, I had auto brake 2 selected, that was it. So yeah, I got relatively close to the end of the runway. So that's actually quite nice, really nice, well done. What we can see now is what happens if I use my normal flap setting of 30. I do calculate, and there we can see that because we have a slightly higher speed, if you look, the approach speed is now 153, and the reference speed is 142, so that went up a bit. It only leaves us 354 meters for the auto brake 1. So auto brake 1 in this case is really off. Auto brake 2 is 500 meters. So yeah, it's yellow. So you can do it, but yeah, it's not a great margin. If everything is okay, that's no problem. And yeah, and auto brake 3, 865 meters. I'm not sure how, if real pilots would see this as critical. 800 meters is quite a bit, if everything works properly. So you would probably not use auto brake 3, but you would at least use auto brake 2 here, and then use the runway, more or less. And if things don't work out, you can always try and do manual braking, or if for some reason the braking doesn't work, you try and make a go around. Yeah. Okay, so that's almost it. Now let's quickly go to the tools section. There's some calculations: distance, nautical miles to kilometers, meter to feet, knots to kilometers per hour, meter per second, kilograms to pounds, airport elevation, pressure altitude, density altitude. Pressure altitude is only based on the baro pressure. Density altitude uses baro pressure and the ambient temperature. And airport elevation, the ISADEF, again depends on the temperature. And then here is the QNH QFE. So if you want to calculate what the QFE would be if you have a certain altitude and a certain QNH. By the way, this is a little typo here. That should be QNH, not QHN. Okay. Very, very handy tool. I really like these two things here because it calculates V-speeds, and for me that means actually what I will do is I'm going to select the CRJ Let's go for the CRJ. I load this profile now, and then I go to the takeoff and landing, and I'm going to do my own. Let's use EDDM 08 left. Let's get the META for Munich. This is -1 degrees, 1012. Winds with 100 from 6, so I think 08 left is fine here. Runway condition is dry. Yeah, we have gray days since yesterday. Let's calculate the, wow, so flap setting 8 is the, yeah, you have 8 and 20. So you don't have to use 20, obviously, on a long runway like this. You use toga. This whole thing in the J-roller on CRJ, it just simply doesn't work. Okay, so you basically do toga most of the time. You could probably, I don't know, can you? No, assume temperature, yeah. So what happens if we say yes, calculate, then it can't do it. If I say no, calculate, yeah, that's basically what the optimum is, meaning no. And that gives us a V1 of 110, V rotation of 113, and V2 of 127. And actually, I wasn't too far off with my thumbs up in the air things that I did, because I took it 110, 115, and 120. No, I used 5 knot steps. Yeah, okay. That gives us a range of 3,900 feet. Stop margin is 9,000. This is a really long runway. Okay, cool. So, very nice. I wish there would be more profiles available, such as the 747, but unfortunately they're not. Yeah, as you can see, there's no 747 and definitely no 787. So none of these are available yet. But hopefully, maybe, we're going to see some in the future. I guess this has to do with the available data. Without the data, you cannot calculate performance. The 747, I do have TopCat. So there's a payware, a very old payware that calculates the 747 performance. But yeah, I have no idea how you can add additional profiles here, or if this is something that the developer needs to do, probably. Okay. By the way, there's a manual, and it gives you a rough overview of what you need to do to install it. Yeah, it shows you all these menus. It explains a little bit all these options that you have. And also the airport database, because it has a database of airports at the beginning. Actually, I can show you this, and this is actually where I did get an error. Let's see if that has been fixed. Because it's loading the airport database from somewhere, I guess, initially. This is taking longer than before. I used to have an error message very quickly. So basically what it pulls there is the information about runways and takeoff points and things like that. Yeah, that takes much longer than before. Could be a good sign. Yo! Actually, I had an error with this one. This is fixed. Cool. By the way, there's an airport editor, which means that you can pull any of the available airports. If you select a runway like 08 left, 26 right, you could actually edit it. I wouldn't do that now because this is obviously one that comes with the database. But I can modify existing airports and I can add new airports. So if for some reason there isn't an entry in this database, I can add my own, and I can modify things if things have changed. So for example, if there's a new runway to an airport that isn't in the database, or if the numbers are not quite right, you can go and modify them here. Yeah, I wouldn't do this now, but just to show you. And if you want to create your own profile, you can say add aircraft profile. You pick one of the base profiles. That's the limitation. You need to use one of the, you can't start completely from scratch, because I think there are so many values that need to be provided that so I can go and do a specific version of the A330-200, give it a name like that. Oops. And now I could modify some of these values here. Okay. I could even say, yeah, give me this in pounds. And then I say save. And then we have test. And then theoretically, if I go to home and I say test, here's our profile. And I even have the options here to switch between engines. So quite a few things also explained here. Okay, go through the manual and have a quick look. There's this ACARS system basically is the Simbrief connection. You need to give it your Simbrief username here, and it will then automatically load your things. There are some operational limits here in this table that have been used to calculate, like the A330, A340 family, 737-200 operational limits, NG, 757, 767, CRJ operational limits. Okay, Embraers, the whole Embraer family, and the Tupolev. So I guess that's the, who's done the Tupolev? Performance page, yep. And weather data, we've seen that. And then explains again for the various aircraft types, like there is a difference between the values that you get for an Airbus, for example, or for a Boeing, obviously, because they're not quite the same. Yeah, so that's quite cool. 757, 756, 767, I mean, the CRJ. It also explains what VTD is, the touchdown velocity, okay, which is VRAF plus 5, for example. And yeah, all the Embraer jets and the Tupolev. I again explained what that is. And I'm hoping for new aircraft to join in the future releases. Thanks very much for watching. Until next time.